a fight that supposed to be on this card, but is not on this card. We heard about Virgil Ortiz versus Jaron Ennis, right? And these guys were at 47 together, and each of them was supposed to be the next big thing, and they were supposed to be the next Crawford Spence after Crawford Spence fight, right?
Right.
And then Virgil can't make 47 anymore. Literally almost killed himself to make 47. Moves up to 54. Jaron, after his last fight with Karen Shujan, said, maybe I should move up to 54. I just think my pops can carry better. And then now we hear about these guys mixing it up at 54, but now there's a lot of rumors going around. No one really knows the full story. I heard Robert Garcia talking about it, and he's saying, like, essentially what they're saying is Boots wanted the fight to take place at 47. I think Boots may or may not be refuting that, or he may be refuting that the fight was ever lined up in the first place. But the way I see this card, I don't think Turkey's lying about having extended the offer. You know what I mean? So something happened, and I think something made it fall apart. So now, if just from what you've seen or what you've analyzed, how do you think that fight fell apart?
It's hard to say, but I suspect it probably came down to Oscar and Eddie Hearn. If I'm being honest, I do think the promoters probably, and they don't get along, right? We seen Oscar, what's that video he be coming out on Thursdays where he be making jokes. He was just making jokes about Eddie Hearn, talking about how Eddie Hearn is dating his fighters. He's being, very very messy, so just talking shit, right? There's no secret they don't like each other at all, right? So I think, and then especially with all this coming out, you have Virgil Ortiz going on Twitter or Instagram. I forget the platform he was on, but basically saying, he never ducks no one. He whenever they come to him with a fight, he basically says yes every single time, kind of like excluding himself from the equation, say, hey, I'm not to blame for this, So if we're taking what he say to be true, then it kind of now falls on, Oscar, Eddie Hearn, and Boots, right? But then Boots also makes a statement saying, I basically essentially saying he didn't even know he was really in negotiations for another fight, and that, if you see something online, it's not accurate until he confirms it, right? So it seems like there might be some miscommunication going on behind, closed doors. I'm not sure, but if I had to guess, it probably has to do with Eddie Hearn or Oscar, or Eddie Hearn in Turkey, right? Because he's the one that essentially is, making these offers, but ultimately Oscar has to say yes too, because Virgil's under the Golden Boy banner. So
yeah. Oh, let me put this question out there, right? So Boots didn't know he was in negotiation, and we shouldn't believe anything unless it comes from him. So I question, how did Boots end up fighting Karen the second time? Like, I don't think that was willingly what he wanted to do.
Yeah, he didn't want to do that.
But some way, somehow, that fight was organized, and then he had to take the fight.
Yeah, I believe Karen ended up being his mandatory again. I believe someone can kind of research it, but this is what I was hearing. And also, Boots didn't have a fight lined up, and he was essentially forced into that fight, I believe, because Karen was his mandatory again. I don't know how, right? But that's essentially kind of like how it went, essentially. But essentially, also the negotiations between him and Brian Norman Jr. kind of fell apart. But also, they're saying now that the fight wasn't going to happen because they were already, they missed the deadline to essentially fight Brian Norman Jr. and they already had the Karen fight lined up. So that's my understanding of the whole situation.
Yeah, and then he also took the David Avanesian fight, which I also don't think that's a fight that he would have been, rushing to take. Moral of the story, I do think negotiations can happen for Boots without Boots there. Like, I mean, he hasn't signed off to make it official, but I do think preliminary negotiations can take place without Boots there. And I do think, huh?
Yeah, I agree. That's why I think it's Eddie Hearn and Eddie Hearn being involved in this, and then with Oscar, you know what I mean? Yeah. For them to be blamed, since he's saying I wasn't aware of this situation,
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna really tell what weight class his next fight takes place at, but I don't know if it's just strictly saying, hey, I want the fight to take place at 147, but I feel like Boots dropped the ball here. It's just my personal opinion. I don't know it for a fact, but
Okay.
I just feel like Boots dropped the ball here, and it may have been maybe the communication came to him too late. Whatever it may be. But this feels like a real thing. Like I'll tell you, like when I heard this whole card, the one that I said was not happening was Shakur and Floyd Schofield, and that's happening. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when I heard that, I'm like, I'm like, that ain't happening, man.
But I will say though, they kind of forced Oscar's hand. That's what I'm saying. Oscar be pretty weird because Oscar was trying to pull Floyd Schofield from that fight, but Floyd Schofield and his team was like, no, we want that fight. You know what I mean? So Oscar has a history of not putting his fighters in, like allowing them to take risks, right? Like even with one of his fighters now, though, supposed to fight Shakur Stevenson. He's all right. He might be injured now, but he's been supposed to fight Shakur, right? So it's like it's Oscar be moving a little. I'm not even gonna lie, he be moving a little shaky. He has a history of doing it. So
I do think Oscar is weird. I would like to hear more. And I mean, the story is going to come out because if no one else is going to tell it, Turkey's going to tell what happened.
Yeah,
he's going to tell what happened. So the story is going to come out. But I do think, I personally can see Boots had been involved in taking a 54 fight and then changing his mind just because after his last press conference, he sounded so confused. I'm not even sure Boots knows what Boots wants to do. When he was saying, "Oh, I think I'd be better at 54, but then I want to fight the guys at 40." He sounded like everything he was saying was just confusing to me. So I can see him still being in a state of confusion of thinking he wants to do this. We're like, nah, I should really just unify here. I can just see him torn, and it's not necessarily because he's scared of Virgil, right? He could just be torn on what that next move is for him.
So you're saying, okay, no,
yeah.
So you're saying, would you say like so would you say like so you say like, let's say hypothetically, right? Let's say Eddie Hearn comes to Boots with an offer. Hey, got an offer for you to fight Virgil Ortiz at 154. What would you think? Like, what do you think is Boots' line of thinking? Do you think he will be like outright be like, nah, or would you be like he will jump at the chance to take that fight? Like, what are your thoughts on that specifically?
I, based on everything he was saying, would have thought that he would have jumped at that opportunity. But like I said, I've been kind of just asking myself, just with the fights that he was taking, because he went to the zone, right, to get these better fights because PBC was shelving him. Not shelving him, but fights were coming too far in between. But then the guys have been seeing him fight at the zone, right? So it's just like, I don't know. Like you said, certain guys you can really push these fights, or certain guys can kind of take a step back and let their handlers, organize fights and kind of say it's out of their control. You know what I mean? So
that's fair. That's fair.
So I don't know. And, I don't think, I'm on the notion most boxers are not scared of most boxers, right? Unless it's like a Mike Tyson kind of situation back in the days. I think people had fear of Mike Tyson. He was a bit unhinged. He hit so damn hard. But now we talk about like, Jaron versus Virgil. I don't think they're like scared of each other, but something went wrong here, bro. I can't wait to figure it out. But I'll say this: if Boots did say he wants to fight, or Boots' team said the fight needs to take place at 47, that's a bad look because Virgil hasn't been at 47 for 3 fights now. We know Virgil can't make 47. So why would you try to force him to make 47?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, I was like, oh man, when I first heard it, I'm not even gonna lie. I was like, oh, yo, did Boots' team drop the ball? But once Boots said he wasn't aware, then I was like, oh, then it had to be negotiations between Eddie Hearn and Oscar, unless Boots is lying, right? Like, unless he's lying, that's the only way. If not, then I wouldn't blame him because he was not in negotiations. Because at the end of the day, he doesn't know that they're talking about the Virgil Ortiz, and he can even say yes or no, then I can't blame him for that. Obviously, I'll have to blame the promoter. Now, what I could blame Boots for afterwards is, okay, now you know that they're talking about these. Now you got to start putting the pressure on Eddie Hearn. Like, yo, what's going on? Why you talk about these fights without letting me know? You know what I mean? He has to take accountability. And then we got to see who he fights next. That's when I'll kind of put the onus on him. But we would just have to wait and see, because even if his father knew, then I can see someone saying, well, realistically, Boots got to be lying because how's your father know? You don't know. You know what I mean? So I would want to know what happened genuinely. You know,
but I mean, we have seen instances of like flip-flopping before, right? think about after Terrence Crawford stopped Errol Spence, Errol, they kind of adapted up. Errol was like, yo, I would love to do it again at 54. And Terrence was all like, yo, for sure, you gave me the opportunity, like basically like he was gonna like pay it back, right? But then like later on, it was like allegedly rumors that Terrence was like, yo, if they rematch, it's gonna be at 47. So it was a bit of flip-flopping. And I don't know if Terrence really said he wanted it at 47 because Terrence's next fight ended up being at 54, right? But I'm just saying we've seen instances of, okay, it seems like this is gonna happen, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, nah, if this, it's gonna be this way. So I'm just saying, like, we've seen flip-flopping before.
Yeah, we just have to see if Boots is lying, like if he knew. You know what I mean? Because if he didn't know, then he couldn't. You know what I mean? He couldn't be probably put in a situation where it's like, we would just have to really see, like, because he went on a limb and say he did not know. So we're gonna have to see, because if you do know, then it's like, yo, if you knew, then why didn't you take the fight, and why the negotiations really breaks down? And this seems to be a common trend here. You know what I mean? So I'm just curious about that to see if he's lying or not. You know what I mean? But now it's going to be a magnifying glass on him, because it's like, what's going on here? Like, is it everyone else's fault? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because Conor Benn is supposed to be fighting
Mario Barrios.
So it's like, bro, like, what's going on now? Like, you know what I mean? Is it just Eddie Hearn favoring Conor Benn, or is it a you situation? So
something seems a bit off, but I mean, we're gonna see though. So that would have been a great fight. That would have been a great fight. But nevertheless, it might not be over. Like I said, it seems like Riyadh seasons really, throw in the bag around. So we could see that one come around and people are fighting quick. Because like I said, I think Madrimov is fighting Bochuk this month, unless that fell apart. So he's supposed to do that and then fight again in February. So
that's you're right. I don't know if he's gonna, that might fall apart, because it ain't no way. That's crazy to me. That is crazy to me, to take on that in that short of a span.
Unless the Bochuk got called off.
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me check this real fast. Madrimov versus Bochuk. Y'all saying Madrimov disrespecting Bochuk, but the one really this is Virgil Ortiz even asked. Okay. Right now this is saying December 21st.
Jesus.
Yeah. December 20th. So I mean, some of these dudes are built different though, but nevertheless, man.
I mean, he got 2 months, but my God, he's an animal, man.
All right. So, you guys tell us what you think about this Jaron and this Virgil Ortiz situation. Did Boots duck Virgil Ortiz? Was there miscommunication? Was there never any communication? Was this just an alleged fight people wanted to see? Make sure you jump in the comment section. Tell us your thoughts there. Tell us your thoughts about the Riyadh season card. Make sure you like and subscribe. 2 cents short of $1, and we out.